this is what Hegel calls concrete universality, all particular historical forms of capitalism as a way trying to mask, conceal, resolve, postpone this basic antagonism. And within this, it's easy to define the difference. What fascism tries to do, again, without antagonistic struggle, how capitalism with a human face tries to do, and so on and so on. Second question, what does it mean to do nothing today? Well, one thing to do nothing would be not to give banks anything and so on. I think the result would be exactly the same. But nonetheless, beware what do I say in the book. I don't say let's do nothing. I say sometimes doing nothing is the most violent thing to do. What I try to draw attention to is what? Everybody who knows me knows that I'm obsessional neurotic. What does this mean? Obsessional neurotic is active all the time, not in order to achieve something, but just to keep things the same. Like I remember when I was in psychoanalysis, I was talking all the time like crazy to my analyst. Why? Because I didn't want anything to change. I wanted to make it sure that if I talk all the time, the analyst will not even have time to ask me an embarrassing question too. I claim that often with our critical activity, blah, blah, we are hyperactive just to make it sure that nothing will change, how should I put it. And sometimes when all of a sudden, you know, you do nothing, there is a kind of an ominous moment of awareness. Then that problem, a nice question about how to collaborate with liberals, bad faith, and so on. I'm sorry if I gave the impression that I was dealing with politics of this kind of a communist suspicion in the Popular Front. On the opposite, we should, when we have, for example, racist struggle, we should be absolutely 100% solidary. It's not like we are up to you liberals to a certain point, but we have our class struggle reserve or whatever. Our message to liberals should be, we know what you want if you are anti-racist, and we are more what you want to be than you yourself are. I didn't mean this kind of compromising, we are not fully against racism, but for example, we are able to show a liberal to detect racism where he will not be aware. Let me, so that I don't lose time, a wonderful thing that, wonderful in the sense of analysis, otherwise horrible, happened in the United States some 3-4 years ago. Maybe you remember it was widely reported in the media. I think it was this Cambridge, Boston, Massachusetts University, an Indian couple from India, not Native Americans, high-paid programmers, and there was, you remember, she was celebrated in England, an English nanny, who I think by neglect caused their death. You know, here it was reported, totally, all my American friends told me that British nanny was extremely popular because it was perceived as a displaced class issue. Those rich Indian, upper class, multicultural, and so on, and here is an ordinary working class girl who now, for doing the hard work, gets screwed, and so on and so on. This is my first interesting point here. To what extent feminist struggle, multicultural struggle, and so on are, how should I put it, are over-determined by a class dimension. So to me, the problem is not so much to convince liberals. It's much more difficult, that's the harshest struggle today, to convince working class, which is fundamentalist and so on. Let me be brutally clear to provoke maybe a reaction. You know, sometimes when I read leftist analysis, it is as if anti-immigrant politics is some kind of a, I don't know, imperialist invention to screw ordinary people. No, sorry, it's mostly, okay, not so spontaneous, but nonetheless, it's a typically working class, working class, spontaneous, ideological working class reaction, which then allows upper classes to be multiculturalist, open, and so on and so on and so on. Things are more complex here. Okay, Norway question. The tyranny of decency. This is a very, I'm so sad I don't have time to develop it because I'm almost tempted to go into the defense of decency. I think those old times where bourgeois, high bourgeois were decent and working class was vulgar, I think they are over. I think the elites are today more and more more and more vulgar and so on. But it's, again, against state, the question of state. No, I think that what we should also question, if there is a lesson, it's the big opposite of state, as I hinted. I think we should drop this myth that, every form of state mediation is bad and we need some kind of a council direct democracy. Let's face it, you cannot organize entire society in this way. This is a problem. Now, the question of, I'm coming to the end. Yeah. How to cut, now it's again, you should allow me this one. How to cut off the balls, no? Okay, I will not be tasteless, but I will a little bit tasteless to go. Of course, there are different modalities. Maybe the illusion of 20th century was that you grab them and directly cut them. But I think there are different ways. I agree here with the idea that maybe sometimes precisely small measures function. Like you say, oh, we don't want to cut your balls, we will just help them to thrive better with small reforms, and then everybody is happy, and then all of a sudden the capitalists look down, where are my balls? How's that good? You know what I mean? Like, it's not, the problem is maybe not the big act, cut the balls, but you make small changes, and all of a sudden balls are no longer there.